Simone. I'm excited today. I'm going to be talking to you about Peanut the Squirrel, the unsung American hero. We've done full episodes on topics where I'm like, this is something I want to know more about. I want to know the full story. I want to know, like, unbiasedly, now what happened, or was the right bias?
I can feel it.
For people who don't know, the broad story of Peanut the Squirrel is Peanut the Squirrel was a pet squirrel that was euthanized by heavy-handed government practices. We are going to go into how this happened, why this happened, and I'd also say this isn't necessarily a rare phenomenon. So, really, what do you mean not necessarily a rare phenomenon? This is somebody saying, what radicalized you? And it's a Black woman, Caitlin Greenidge. She goes, when we lived in public housing, my mom started a community garden to grow food to save money and to occupy the kids that lived there. And the public housing authority came and pulled out all the plants and poured bleach on the ground to destroy it because gardens weren't allowed.
Oh my gosh. Oh. I mean, what the Victory Gardens were the most patriotic American government-supported thing in the World War II. What is this?
I just gonna say progressives are evil. But anyway, we'll get into this more. Like it gets more evil than you could conceivably imagine with Peanut the Squirrel. It gets into the level of you're like, would they genocide my people? And then you'll read this and you're like, oh yeah, they would. And they wouldn't even think of it as a thing. So
A squirrel story is going to reveal this? I'm out of the loop, actually. Oh, okay. All right. I'm glad you're airing this then, because the election kind of drove right over
the
this
election
story.
hid how severe the Peanut the Squirrel story is. And I think it really shows the true evil that the bureaucracy represents and why we need to fight it and burn it and rip it from every state and every county in every country, because it is evil in the extreme. But Peanut's story began 7 years ago when Mark Longo found him as an orphan baby squirrel in New York City after his mother was hit by a car. Longo took Peanut home, where he nurtured him back to health due to a severe injury that caused Peanut to lose half his tail. He was deemed unable to survive in the wild. Consequently, Longo decided to keep him as a pet, sharing their adventures on social media platforms like Instagram, where Peanut grew up to 720,000 followers.
Okay, so this was a celebrity squirrel.
Yeah, this is why it matters as well. It was a celebrity squirrel, and it may have played a part in handing Trump this election.
What? Oh, wow. The plot thickens. Sign me up for this. This is good. Okay.
On October 30th, 2024, so right before this election, the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, executed a raid on Longo's home in Pine County following an anonymous complaint about illegally keeping of wildlife. There was rumors that somebody named Monica Kiesler had admitted to it in a TikTok video, and then everybody went and attacked somebody else called Monica Kessler, but then they attacked Monica Kiesler, and it has since come out from a Freedom of Information request that she was not the person who did it, or at least there is no proof that she was the person who did it. So I'm just trying to clear this up. But basically, the evidence seems to side towards her not being the person who did it, but a lot of people think it was her. So this is very similar to like how haters about us will say something like, oh, you know, let's raid their house with the Child Protective Services, which we've had called on us twice by haters.
It's similar to swatting. So people used to just, I think now swatting is more rare because it was abused so much, but now people call CPS, or they call some kind of like animal humane. Remember the llama farm had like some kind of department called on them a bunch of times? The trans llama farm.
But during this raid, and you'll see how completely unjustified this was in a second. During this raid, authorities seized both Peanut and Fred, a raccoon that Longo had recently rescued. The DEC reported that Peanut had allegedly bit an officer during the inspection, which led to both animals being euthanized for rabies testing. Both animals. The raccoon bit nobody. They euthanized both animals. The decision sparked outrage online.
Hold on. Because you and we had a rabies scare this summer, and there was a bat that was dead in our yard, and we actually did have to send it in. It was still alive. And what happens is if there is potential exposure, you know, maybe someone like a child was bit by an animal, you are supposed to send it in for testing so that you
This
can
this
tell.
animal couldn't have
But
conceivably had
but
rabies.
yeah, that's the thing is squirrels don't, from my understanding, squirrels don't carry rabies.
Rodents don't carry rabies.
It doesn't matter if the squirrel bit them. The squirrel was not rabid. And also, if the squirrel was rabid, this guy would know because it was in his house and he would know that the squirrel was lethargic and then
The
aggressive, but
squirrel would have
also
to be
squirrels don't get
bit
rabies.
by another animal. How was it bit by another animal? It was in his house and they knew
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. The raccoon could have been rabid though, but the raccoon didn't bite. Right.
Yeah.
So
So, and it gets worse. So just so you know how overreaction this was in terms of like wasteful government spending. 6 to 8 New York Department of Environmental Conservation officers arrived at the house. They spent hours inside the farmhouse, searching every part of the home. He described it as, quote, "We weren't allowed to move. We were police escorted to use the bathroom," end quote.
Arms of the angel from here you find some comfort.
There had been some recent speculation that this may have been over an OnlyFans account that he and his wife ran because they also do babysitting sometimes. The reason he suspected this might be the case is because the first question that was asked of them is, do they have any cameras in their house? However, I kind of doubt that because we know the agency these individuals came from. They came from the Animal Protection Agency. And because of that, you can't have Animal Protection Agency people do an investigation into porn. That just makes no sense. Like I don't think cross departments do things like that. So I think that this is just him freaking out. And the reason they were probably asking about cameras is they wanted to make sure no footage leaked of them doing this because it would have made them look bad. Also, side note, apparently they made $800,000 a month on OnlyFans, and they bought a 358-acre property with this money. And what? Should I be doing OnlyFans? I did not know you could make that much money on OnlyFans. That's insane. $800,000 a month? I mean, look, I may have some misgivings around pornography, but they are not $800,000 a month misgivings. I can get around any scruples I have for that kind of money. So should Simone and I be starting an OnlyFans account? In the comments, by the way, this is a joke. I would never actually do that, even for $800,000 a month. They had a search warrant, which they used to seize a quote unquote unlawfully possessed gray squirrel and raccoon and any other, well, and there's no other unlawfully possessed wildlife because that's all he had. And they begin to aggressively question his wife, Diana, about potentially being an illegal immigrant. Which, by the way, people are like, Republicans do this. No, Democrats do this. The Democrats, and we saw this in our election video for anyone who wants to see this, the moment they don't think that somebody's supporting their cause, they will not only deport you, they will sterilize you, they will kill you because that is who they are as human beings. They use you because they think they own your identity, not because they give a flying fuck who you are. How cavalierly the Democrats weaponize political institutions against their opponents is just wild to me. They do it so frequently now, they don't even notice that they're doing it. So they'll say something like, oh my gosh, now that the felon Trump is elected, he will hit his opponents with frivolous lawsuits. And I'm like, you understand that felon isn't like a slur. It's a sign that he was targeted by a frivolous lawsuit by his political opponents. It's wild that Trump hasn't done this to his political opponents, and yet his political opponents regularly do it to him and his supporters. You know, like Elon Musk was pointing out we can't let you launch a rocket because it may hit a whale when it enters the ocean. Like, what? And to give you an idea of how delusional they have gotten around this is despite the fact that everybody knows, and they constantly remind us, every time you mention that Trump's a felon, all I think is, oh yeah, you weaponized politics to hit him with a frivolous lawsuit. And they're like, no, I'm like, why is he a felon? They're like, do you want me to remind you why he's a felon? He's a felon because his lawyer told him that the way that he should make hush payments to a prostitute was to give the lawyer money and then the lawyer would make the payments. And then New York said, no, he needed to label those payments hush money to prostitute, which of course no one's gonna fucking do. And his lawyer told him this was an okay thing to do, and it seems like something that would be okay. And then you're like, well, he shouldn't have paid hush money to a prostitute. That kind of sexual impropriety in and of itself makes him unfit to be president. And I'm like, oh, you know who else was paying hush money? Yeah, Kamala's husband, who knocked up the maid and then paid her hush money to keep her quiet about it. Or how about Kamala when she was in her 20s and was sleeping with a 60-year-old to get a political appointment? Yeah, that happened too. Oh, you didn't know about those things? Well, they're pretty well documented. If you don't know about them, it's because the media you're listening to is actively hiding it from you. And this was only supposed to be a misdemeanor, but then they said, oh, he was doing this to cover up another crime. What crime? They didn't mention, because he obviously wasn't. So very clearly just a politically motivated thing. And it's wild to me that they will make these accusations with so much confidence that this is something that Trump would do when they just did it to him and are reminding you they did it to him.
Controversial new ad from the Trump campaign rolled out this week, depicting a montage of all the people the former president says he'll kill if he's elected in November. The largely silent commercial, which openly promises the murder of various political rivals, celebrities, and even a handful of ordinary citizens,
I think Trump is putting forward a clear and forceful vision of vengeful bloodshed, decapitating Pete Buttigieg on day one, ending the lives of Kim Kardashian, Jake Tapper, the Golden State Warriors. This is the kind of thing that has proven to be successful with firing up his base, and the campaign believes it's a winning message. But I think it's worth pointing out that the ad is not entirely partisan. Don Jr. appears in there several times.
Thanks for joining me, Mark. As someone who is featured prominently in the ad, I'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops.
This is just so wild to me that this happened. And I could think of nothing as a better message for why it's important that the entire Democratic establishment, whether you're in New York or Pennsylvania, we need to start fire torching the bureaucracy because it's evil. It doesn't. And do you not see that, Simone, when I'm like, these are people who would like callously kill someone for no reason. There is no reason for them to do this. What are your thoughts?
There's this issue when you, and I think pretty much everyone can identify with this, when you get caught in a bureaucracy and something is obviously wrong and you're obviously not being treated well, you're like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, you know, policy dictates that I have to do this. And you're like, well, yeah, but someone could die. And they're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't help you. This happened, for example, when we had the rabies scare with our family, right? Like the county was able to give us, you know, a thing saying, you know, this family has been exposed. You know, we recommend that they get rabies shots, but no one was willing to provide them to us unless we went to an emergency room and paid $10,000 for emergency room admittance and then rabies shots, which we couldn't afford to pay. So it was just like, well, then I guess you're going to die, but there's nothing I can do because we don't have a policy of, you know, prescribing rabies
the
shots.
policy. They're like literally, and I'll try to put some things here of like,
people of Earth, this is prosthetic Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you are probably aware, plans involve the building of the Hyperspace Express route through your star system. And your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. There's no point acting all surprised about it. The plans and demolition orders have been on display at a local planning office in Alpha Centauri for 50 Earth years.
I think that's really real, you know, and it's scary because I think people are experiencing this more in Canada where like euthanasia is the option. They're just like, well, like,
oh my God, let's talk about the euthanasia thing in Canada where somebody was like, oh, you know, it's been a few years and you guys were supposed to install the thing in my house so I could get to the top floor of my house and I haven't been able to go up there in years. And they're like, well, have you thought about killing yourself?
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. But yeah, I think this goes to show that people accuse very common conservatives of being evil mustache uniform people from Germany. But really, in the end, you know, this dehumanization and willingness to just kind of let people fall by the wayside, or take things from people, it can happen in any bureaucracy, especially when it becomes large and people just sort of blindly follow rules. And the number of atrocities that someone can commit, I think we don't normalize it, just how quickly humans can do that. And you just assume that that can't happen unless someone's like actively evil and ha ha ha, cackle cackle. And that's not at all. Bureaucracies
no, I think these people are actively evil, and we don't categorize them as the true form of villain that they are. I mean, consider the people who called CPS on our family, right? They're like, they're not living the way I want them to. In the same way, the people who called, the Environmental Protection Service on this individual.
Oh yeah,
were like,
let's be clear. These are people who vouched online to not stop fighting until our children were taken away from us.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing of like, I want your squirrel taken away from you. I want your children taken away from you, like whatever it is. The people who are triggering these raids and these visitations really want these people to lose their livelihood, to lose their families, to lose, the animals and people that they love most, and even their careers. I mean, if this girl had that many followers, maybe he also was making money from like ad revenue and stuff. So like he probably also lost income. And yeah, it is scary. It is scary.
Well, I mean, not lost. But what I say is it's the same action that it took this guy to 1 million followers before somebody decided to do this to him. But these people are just vile. They just want to see other people suffer because these people are not like them. And bureaucracies give them power because they listen to them. Things like swatting should not even be possible in any sort of a normal society. Things like this they could have 6 to 8 members of an administration like paid for a full day searching his house, and then one of them gets bitten because they were rough handling his animals. Like, did they even get bitten, or were they just like convinced like we're gonna go in there and murder everyone? Like that's sort of the thing, right? Like this comes off as dystopian and evil to an extent that I almost cannot conceive. And I am just so shocked that we live in an environment that's so close to this, and yet anyone can still vote Democrat. Even a single human can still vote Democrat, knowing that we live in this world. And it's scary.
So what happened after this? Like, was there backlash? Were there ramifications? Were people questioned?
No, people freaked out, but New York being so Democrat, they're not going to be able to shut down this department. If we get into the administration, this is one of the things I may want to see is promoting bills to dissolve these sorts of departments at the state level. And you're like, oh my God, how could you do that? Well, they shouldn't have had the right to do this.
So I feel torn because, a lot of animal control departments and human safety departments do really, really, really important work. Like,
I don't believe that.
Welcome to animal control. Let me show you around. Those are some chairs. That's a cat or possum. This is a napkin where I wrote down a cool name for a dog. Bark Obama.
Oh, yeah, we found this bird outside. We tried to turn it into a work whistle, like in the beginning of the Flintstones. Tougher than it looked, though.
Animal control famously does very little of meaning.
It does seem to be very poorly run. But we've only been here for 2 minutes. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
4. There's 4 ways to skin a cat. Ready for blow?
Ow! What is this?
Coyote trap, dude.
This hurt! You're fired. You're fired. The whole department is fired.
And I feel like that's probably what we were looking at was in this circumstances, an animal control that was mostly a self-masturbatory effort. There's even recently been an entire show done about animal control, about how feckless they are.
A reality TV show or
No, not a reality TV show. It's supposed to be like because they don't want to do cops anymore because they see them as evil. So now they're doing animal control. I think it was done by the people who did or in relation to, because they had some of the same actors who did that cop show. What was it called? It was so good. Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh.
Should I be concerned? They are violent and have famously bad temperaments.
It's bad, Frank. It's starting to feel extreme.
And they did an animal control show because many people in the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine were like, oh, I feel so uncomfortable, the actors, because we're promoting cops.
Oh,
and like Black Lives
yeah.
Matter,
Suddenly they
and,
were
like, all
super not
cops are
okay.
bastards.
Yeah. Yes.
And so they couldn't even humanize cops. They were like, that's evil. So we'll humanize, murderers of little peanuts.
I feel more conflicted than you. I think I'm the one who interacts more with government related officials and employees on my part. And pretty much everyone I've interacted with has been pretty great. Hardworking, well-meaning.
Who would authorize this? It's not just that, like, there were at least 6 people in this guy's house.
Yeah.
None of them stood up against this decision. None of them said, "What are you doing, you psycho?"
Yeah. No, I mean, clearly there are bad actors here. Clearly there are toxic policies. I mean, I could see this play out in a way where these people were just doing what they were following standard operating procedure. They don't deviate because they don't care. And they've dealt with so many at this point, like just random squirrels and random
But
animals that they
anyone
just
would know rodents don't carry rabies.
Yeah, but I'm sure that there's some kind of policy where they're like, well, an animal bit me, like we have the right to just take it and euthanize it and test it anyway because, whatever, like if an
I don't
employee
buy that. I think they went in there with the intention of killing these animals.
Yeah, probably.
But why? Like, why were they that cruel? Why were they that messed up? Why did 5 to 9 people this is what I read of this situation. The fact that like 5 to 8 people went in there to me says, one, they looked up this guy beforehand, they saw that he was famous, and 2, they wanted to send a message about how much control they had and how much power they had over people who were more publicly famous than they are.
This could be, and there could have also been a meeting behind closed doors about this person promoting squirrel ownership and that being a thing that they didn't want to start dealing with because then people would start owning, all sorts of like possums and raccoons that they found on the road. And
squirrels are not possum and raccoons; they are rodents, and they do.
I get it, but you could see them having this meeting in this government building where they're like, "Hey, this guy's making people think that they can just find roadkill and adopt it, and that's okay, and we can't have, we already deal with people who have raccoons in their attics and all these other things, and children like." There have been people
do anything if we had a raccoon in our attic.
I want to just let me steelman this. There have been cases, actual real cases of couples who decide that I'm going to adopt a raccoon. And then they go out and they leave their sleeping baby in their house with the raccoon and the raccoon eats the baby's face off. Like literally.
This is so much less than pit bulls. Why don't they go out and kill pit bulls?
Well, but you understand that like encouraging people to own wild animals is not a good idea. And I think that they probably wanted to show a very prominent case of like, here's what we're going to do to you if you try to do this, because it's not. And now here's the problem is this guy was a wildlife expert. He knew what he was doing. He was not your average jackoff. Like, and he clearly was responsibly owning this animal. And you're absolutely right as well, that pit bulls hurt a lot more babies and other people's pets and adults than random raccoons, because most people are sensible enough to not put raccoons in their house. And pit bulls are also way more likely to, get aggressive and do terrible things.
Well, they're literally bred to kill children.
Well, yeah, like sort of small mammals, yeah. Whereas raccoons just get hungry sometimes, I guess. But like my point here is that I think that it's important to be aware of how these things actually happen, and what you're doing is wrong, because what you're saying, you're just straw manning these people and saying, oh, they're just evil. They just want to do evil. And what's happening here instead, you have to understand the bureaucratic processes that lead this to happen if you want to actually dismantle it.
I disagree.
If you want to actually burn it
way
down.
more evil than you're giving them credit for. I don't think you believe in human evil, and human evil is always downstream of bureaucracy.
No, because I know for a fact, I believe this very deeply within me, that everyone is doing the very best they can with the information they have on hand. Some people are possessed, we'll say, by evil information.
Simone, I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. I do not think that there are individuals out there, the way that progressives frame conservatives, individuals out there who are like, I'm gonna get these people. Oh, I'm so excited to get these people. That doesn't exist.
Outside of bureaucracies, the core time when people do evil or are convinced in mass to do evil, if they get lied to and convinced that a group wants to get them. So you very rarely have a group of people that's like, ooh, I can't wait to get X people. But what you often have is a group of people that says, oh, X people are victimizing me, so I should, in retaliation, get them. This is how the Nazis got people to target the Jews. They said, well, the Jews are privileged, the Jews have power, the Jews have taken your money, and they used that to get them to target the Jews. This is how the wokes get all of these people. If you watch these progressives freaking out about losing the election, they believed that they had the right to commit any sort of evil they wanted to against Republicans to hit Trump with frivolous lawsuits because they had been convinced that these people were out to get them, even when this is very clearly not true. Just like the Nazis did, Kamala's running the same playbook.
But people who will follow a
Well, no,
bureaucracy...
there are people who are excited to get those people, but that's because they think that those people are evil. They think that humans are, a scab upon the earth that needs to be scratched off and healed. You know what I mean?
Which is not what conservatives think, it's what progressives think. But what I will say is that there is a category of people who sees their entire life about exercising power over those they see as weaker than themselves. That's their entire goal. Everything is about how do I exercise power as cruelly as I can upon others, and how can I use the bureaucracy to accomplish this? This is what Karens are. This is what the Karen Crusade is about. And this is what led to this. I do not believe that anyone involved in any stage of this was genuinely like, how do I make the world a better place?
Karen, you're back.
I'm here to see the manager.
You can't be here.
Oh, can't I?
No.
The Consumer Rights Act says that I can. Now get me the manager. I demand that you listen. Listen to everything that I say. Oh, you are a useless employee. Look at you.
I don't know where he is.
You've got the slightest idea of what is going on here. Look at you now. Is this what you call customer service? Is that what it's become?
I'm sorry.
Where is the manager? There you are.
What is this?
This is your undoing.
No, this isn't possible.
Call yourself a manager?
Oh, a bit different. No.
We are going to tell everyone about this. I want to complain about the state of the store and the horrible service that we have had to deal with.
Your hair disgusts me. You have far too much makeup on. That Louis Vuitton is a fake.
How dare you! You take that back. Her hair is fabulous!
Yuck, yuck, yuck. Adam, Rowan, I have them in a temporary rage paralysis.
Sorry, I'm trying to get a word in edgewise, but she's not letting me. Girl, I've given you so many opportunities to fall asleep. You've resisted. Okay. I disagree. I think that this was them, kind of like how Martha Stewart was used as this prominent, I'm going to make an example of you because you're famous, and we're going to use this to show you that, no one's above the law, and to get everyone to pay attention to our rules, which we want more people to be aware of. And they also don't want to promote wild animal ownership among people. And this was a prominent, with a lot of followers person who is making it look really cool to own things like squirrels, and probably, I bet the raccoon featured in some of this content as well. And that is dangerous. It's not a good idea unless you really know what you're doing. And he really knew what he was doing, but he was also kind of influencing people who don't know what they're doing.
Squirrels are not dangerous to own. That's the thing.
Yeah, squirrels, I imagine, are quite fine. I mean, people own all sorts of animals that can do things to hurt family members and other animals and their owners. But I'm trying to say how I think this could happen with well-meaning people. I do think the person who called this on him, well, again, the people who call CPS on us do care about children, do think we're hurting our children.
No, they don't. They care about enforcing their cultural value system, and they have deluded themselves into thinking that equates to caring about children.
Well, yeah, but I mean, your own mother was like, oh, if you don't spend $1 million a year on them, you're mistreating your children. And people.
Simone, come on. You understand that that's an unrealistic expectation.
I do, but I'm just saying that those people don't realize. Those people don't realize that. Those people just genuinely believe that these unrealistic standards must be met, or that children are being brutalized. You know what I mean?
All I'm saying is that everyone involved in the Peanut the Squirrel massacre needs to be rounded up. They need to be arrested, and they need to be court-martialed. That is something that I think the next Trump administration needs to handle. People need to understand you cannot do this BS.
I will say that what they did was messed up, and I don't.
It's not messed up. It's evil in the extreme, and it's evil, and any reasonable person would have known it was evil.
Yeah, that many people to raid someone's house. It's one thing to be like, hey, dude, like, I don't know. Do you know what the rules are? Like, what rule was this man supposedly violating?
No rule. No rule.
So you're allowed to own. So what?
Yeah, you're allowed to own squirrels. You're allowed to own raccoons. These aren't illegal to own.
Then can he sue? Like, on what grounds could they go in and do that?
Somebody said this guy was being naughty. This is about authoritarianism overriding the rights of the individual.
Yeah, well, I think that's another reason to keep the state on both a national and local level as small as possible, because it can be abused as soon as it's too big, and that's just not okay. The more that the state or any bureaucracy could be used as a cudgel against people, the worse things get. Oh my God, give up and fall asleep. You know you want to. Oh, you know you want to. You're resisting it so much. Oh, she's the worst. I love her so much. Oh my God, I love her children.
Simone,
but
don't worry, I'll come and beat her for you.
people will think that you're not kidding. And then we'll have CPS called on us again.
I
We'll waste their
love you.
resources.
It's time for dinner. I'm excited for dinner. I'm excited to be married to you. I'm excited to live a life with you. Oh, by the way, don't forget to cut up the long hot pepper I got from the grocery store for the fried rice.
Okay, so you want me to redo the fried rice with the long hot?
Not redo. I mean, you're reheating it anyway. Just cut
Yeah,
it
I'm reheating. Well, I'm gonna do a small batch for the kid. I have to do 2 pans then, because there's to be the non-spicy pan for the kids, and then the
Ignore it
daddy
then.
pan.
Just do it however you want. Whatever's easiest. I love you.
What if I made a ramekin full of the spiced up long hot, but it wasn't
So what I
sauteed?
do is take about a quarter of the long hot,
Mhm.
cut it into very small pieces, very small, and then we could dust it on top of my part of the
At
fried
the
rice
end. Yeah.
at the end.
Okay. Just 1/4 of it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, now she
I'm not
falls
looking for
asleep.
something that spicy. You're not even gonna get that much, you know.
Now
But by the way, the story of Peanut, is it worse than you thought from what you had heard?
No, I'd heard all of those things. Well, the one thing I hadn't heard was how many people were involved. And that is insane. Also, just like, even if you don't care about Peanut, even if you don't care about this guy, even if you don't, just the government waste, our tax dollars. I mean, well, New Yorkers' tax dollars, but still
I'm
being
glad I don't live in New
used.
York. I'll tell you
Well,
that.
when you consider, oh, I'm so pissed. Now you fall asleep. The struggle session of these podcasts with irritable Indy who needs to take a nap, and at the very freaking end, she's out.
Is she so sweet, by the way? Oh.
I mean, and now I don't want to get up because now she's all snuggled. What? These children are so.
I'm sorry our children are a constant pain in your life.
Oh, she's so sweet. Oh my God. Okay, but yeah, that you have to consider, these people are getting pensions. These people, like government workers, are actually quite expensive because they typically have full benefits. They have pensions. They have insurance. Like all it just, and probably they have some kind of car that they're driving around in. Like this is just a huge waste of money. So it's even egregious from that perspective. And it really bothers me. We do with our the business that we run. That's our only paying day job that we're about to voluntarily leave, which good luck to us, right? We do these RFPs. We respond to requests from various types of governments and government funded entities to do their travel management. And our business responds to them saying, here are our prices, here are our services. And we'll have these calls where it's just like really simple questions that they want to ask us, and like 8 people will be on the call, and we'll take a whole hour to talk about it, and 7 out of the 8 people are doing absolutely nothing. And I'm just thinking about okay, I'm like counting up, like, well, okay, it's probably costing them an average of $50 per hour per person. Like this call cost, let's 7 times 50. Like, why
Wild.
are you doing this? Like the amount of money that was just wasted for something that you could have emailed me about is so yeah, that stuff keeps me up at night just as much as tragic squirrel stories, for sure. But oh well.
I love you, Simone.
I love you too. Final piece of advice maybe I could ask you to share is, okay, if people are using the government as a cudgel to hurt families, they're calling CPS on families, they're calling animal services on families. This is the new swatting. What should people be preemptively doing to protect themselves if raids are now a weapon being used?
Just so little you can do. And what you haven't seen is that we have been protected because we are, like a heterosexual married couple. That is, if you're like a single guy, the first time you get CPS called on you, the kids get taken away. And
Yeah.
37% of American kids have had CPS called on them.
Well, then maybe I kind of feel like a disaster preparedness a plan that people need to have.
I know, and this is what I've done recently is say, I'm not taking my kids in public parks anymore. I'm not putting them around public people anymore. It is too dangerous.
Well, but also like have a lawyer that you are ready to call who knows who you are, but also know your rights in your state and be prepared to say like, you are not allowed to do this. Because I think a lot of what's happening is people are letting groups into their house, not knowing
That's
what's going
not
on.
true, Simone. In the case of Peanut, they had a search warrant.
They had a search warrant.
You are misunderstanding how powerful
I'm trying to think of what, like
all you can do is prevent them from seeing you if you don't have the power to resist.
So you're just saying people need to be secretive and hidden.
Yes.
And
with us, we are only comfortable doing this because we have the power to resist the people who may attack us.
You mean all the guns? That's not going to help. If it's
No,
the
not
government.
the guns. I mean the public profile, the number of impactful and successful friends who could influence government policy. If somebody attempts to take one of our kids from us, if CPS comes here and they say, "Oh, we're going to take X kid or Y kid," we would win them back within a few weeks.
Yeah.
It would be we know the press to contact. We know how to make a story go viral. Your average person doesn't know that. If they take their kids are taken.
Yeah.
We'll do a separate episode on this because they love taking children from people. This is like a mainstream thing at this point.
Yeah, which is it's extra disturbing because the people who work for Child Protective Services or whatever child services entity there is, these are people who genuinely care about children. We work with
some.
What I'm saying, Malcolm, is the ones that I've met, and we've worked with them both as service providers and as people like the people who come to our house. These are people who really care about the well-being of children. And these are groups that, like, for example, Child Protective Services in our area primarily is just distributing food and clothing and diaper aid to families of limited means.
Oh my God, Simone, you buy into their BS. It takes one totalitarian bad apple to start taking children for people.
It's true, but what I'm saying is when people are doing that, they're also taking resources away from families that it could actually benefit from the services provided by these
I
groups.
don't disagree with that, but you just need to be much stricter about these organizations, and you need to clean them out like taking a flamethrower to them. You can't have any disregard. People are like, oh, I've been with this organization for 25 years. Fuck you. How many kids have you taken compared to other people's count? This should be easy to count. Same with this. People are not fully considering this because there's people like you who say, oh, many people at these organizations are doing this right. The people at these organizations who are doing this right are looking forward to the flamethrower day.
That's fair. And I think that that's something that we see when we bring up this message. I think it's the same for like effective altruism. Is it when we talk about effective altruism needing a really big reckoning, pretty much everyone we know who's a real effective altruist is like, I 100% agree. We need to clean house.
RDA.org, by the way, check it out.
Yeah, that's the same with many of these organizations where people come in. Same with teaching schools, right? Like we know a lot of really amazing teachers who are like, burn it down. Like I came here wanting to help kids and I'm prevented from doing so every single day. And I think that's the message. I don't want people to come away thinking that we hate government workers or that we think that they're bad people. I think that they're in systems that have become inherently corrupted. And I think that they know better than everyone else what needs to be done to clean them up, but they're kind of prevented from doing so.
Oh, you're so understanding, Simone. This is why everyone wants you to be president and not me. Everyone knows that you would never go crazy with power.
I'm too autistic for that.
I love you.
I love
Have a
you
good
too.
day.
You too. Good day, sir. I
Day,
said
madame.
good day.
No, I said.
I said.
This is what our little son Toasty does. I said. I love you.
Yes.
I love you a great deal, by the way.
I love you too, Malcolm. I'm glad we get some normal life for a few days going forward.
A few days.
I just
We've
want
had a
to
documentarian
sleep.
living with us for a while. We were at Hereticon before that. We're leaving our jobs. I don't know what to do. Like,
I just
it's so
want
much.
sleep. I want sleep for like, but you can't sleep because then there's the kids. Like, I really probably would sleep for like a good 24 hours if there weren't like
How about
humans.
this weekend? Can I take the kids for you and let you sleep for 24 hours at any
No,
point?
because then I'm going to spend 24 hours awake cleaning the house to deal with the aftermath. But I would love extra support this week. I'm just really tired, but I love you so much. And obviously everyone knows you got the better. I got the better end of the deal. You are the pretty one. You are the brains. You are irreplaceable. You could buy with money every single thing that I do.
Can somebody explain this to me? I actually think my wife is pretty hot. Like, but we get mails like she has a face that could sink 1,000 ships.
Malformed, yeah, all those things.
Malformed, genetically defective, and they only talk about you in this way.
Yep. No, they're like Malcolm's.
They're like
They're just
Malcolm,
like,
yeah, sure, whatever, Malcolm, but Simone, the malformed, genetically defective woman who could sink 1,000 ships with her disgusting face, pseudo face.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You seem normal to me.
Well, thank goodness, right? I don't like the way I look. That's why it hurts. You know, if I were like stunning, and I'd be like, oh, you know, that doesn't offend me, but it hurts because I look in the mirror and I cringe. You know, I'm like, well, God, like, why do you have to complain? I have to look in the mirror every day. This is not fair. But anyway, you don't want me talking myself down, so I'm the best. Everyone knows it.
You're great. No, I mean, I don't like it when you talk yourself down in terms of your prominence. You know, if you're talking about your looks or something like that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to put down. I think that the way that I look is going to actually be at a premium in a post-AI world, because in a post-AI world, and especially with filters and everything else now, there is going to be value put on clearly real human forms that are flawed, because you know that they're genuine, and also they're the only thing that will look distinct. You're going to see like this sort of homogenization of faces. You can already see it when you have like AI create images of humans. They all kind of look the same. When you see, well, like when I scroll through Instagram, everyone kind of looks the same, and people who look weird are going to stand out, and it is the standing out that makes you memorable.
I don't even think you look that weird. As a 40-year-old woman who's had
I'm not. Oh my God! Ouch! I'm 36. I'm almost 37. As a
as a mid-30s woman.
I mean, you've made your own point, Malcolm. Okay, I don't know what else to say.
As a mid-30s woman who's had 4 kids, I think that you look spectacular. And honestly, the only 2 odd things about your face, if I'm gonna be honest here, it's your nose, a little big. I think by a lot of people's standards, they'd be like, "Oh, that's a Jewish nose," and it's like, yeah, very Jewy. And the other is your mouth, like mine, is gigantic.
Thanks.
I'll tell you
Malcolm?
a funny thing. No, so a lot of people don't realize how much people's mouths change in size.
What is he up to? He's bringing around.
So what is Torsten doing right now?
Torsten is completely naked, except for 2 yellow boots, out in the 30-degree weather, filling a bucket of rocks from his rock garden. And look, a baby deer! We told that to Tyson because there actually is a deer in the background. But she just looked at naked Torsten.
It's just certain!
That's just Torsten.
I can't watch myself. I don't see it.
You don't see it? Okay, let's